Good morning, students. Myself, Dr. Vijayendra Singh Tawar, Associate Professor in English. And at present, I have been posted at Government College, Gudha, in the Jhanjhanur district. In the series of video lectures, which is being prepared by me, today's lecture is meant for the students of BA Part First, subject English Literature, paper first, and the topic which we are going to have today's discussion is the famous poem of Tarudat entitled The Lotus, and we will talk about its critical appreciation. As we know that there will be essay type question of 20 marks, so that is very important. So, as it is our tradition that first of all we discuss about the author. The poet is Tarudat. She was born in 1856 and died in 1877. That is, during her life, she lived just 21 years on this earth. Her lifespan was very short. But she has achieved that could not be achieved even by a person who had lived for 100 years. First of all, she was the first women poet of Indian Renaissance, very important poet, and first very important Indian poet who wrote in English at that time. She is regarded as one of the greatest writers of English literature, who will be remembered for coming eras or ages. She was a versatile genius. She was a poet, novelist, translator, and what not. She had done and showed her talent in many fields. Though she died at a very young age of 21, she had left behind an immense collection of prose and poetry. Then she is not only a poet, she is known as the first novelist who wrote a novel in French. At that time, when she was just a child, her father was very much impressed by Christianity and he adopted or he became Christians along with all the family members. Though their background was Hindu, but they became, but unfortunately, or you can say it was very unfortunate on the part of Mother India that this talented writer Tarudat had one brother and one sister more, and she herself, all of them suffered from a hereditary disease, tuberculosis. At that time, this was incurable, that is, death was certain. After some time, her brother died, Abju, and then after some time, she, along with her father, visited France, that is European countries and England. There she lived and there she did something wonderful. He was also a poet, or you can say very lovable father. So he gave full freedom to both the daughters. They learned French and translated French poems into English, and that is also known as a sheaf gleaned in French fields. It was a remarkable achievement of that time. It was published in 1875. About that anthology, a great critic said that if the French poetry were lost entirely, it might not be impossible to reconstruct a great number of them from this Indian version. Means such a wonderful translation they did. She was a very skillful poet. She was well versed not only in English but also in French, German, and Sanskrit. She was a remarkable young woman of her time, and for the very reason she is remembered even after 1.5 century of her death. She wrote with a wonderful skill, and her works give us insights into the literary and social change that took place not only in late 19th century India but also of Europe. She also wrote on Indian themes and saying of India's heroes and heroines. For example, of Savitri and Satyavan, of Sita, Lakshman, Dhruva, Eklavya, Dasrath, Prahlad, and Hiranyakashipu. She wrote on these hero and heroines of Indian culture. She learnt about these heroes and heroines from Sanskrit as she read and knew Sanskrit also. However, this chief gleaned in Sanskrit fields came out in 1882, posthumously after her death. Posthumously after death, with the title Ancient Ballads and Legends of Hindustan, and carried an introduction by Edmund Gosse, who remarked, literature has no honor which need have been beyond the grasp of a girl who at the age of 21 in languages separated from her own by so deep a chasm had produced so much of lasting work. She also wrote novels. In short, Tarudat was a poetess of first order. Means if there would have been at that time Nobel Prize, etc., she must have won that. She must have been given that prize too. The Lotus, the poem which we are going to have today, is one of the most famous poems composed by Taru Dutt. It is a sonnet and it is a Petrarchan sonnet, means it has two parts, octave and sestet. She has presented problem in the octave and try to give the answer or solution of that problem in the sestet. This is also one of the most anthologized and finds place in almost all the anthologies of Indo-Anglian poetry. This where Indo-Anglian literature is taught, this poem is prescribed in almost all the Indian universities. The poem has an exquisite finish and a liveliness all its own. The poem exemplifies her delicate talent for building up a poem, how a small issue can be built up into form of a poem. The poem is based on a fanciful thought. The god of love, Cupid, goes to Flora, the goddess of vegetation and flowers, and asks her to give him a flower which can be called undisputed queen, specialless number one flower of all the flowers of flowers. In other words, he requests her to give him the loveliest flower, number one flower among all the flowers. The red rose and the white lily have been for long claiming that honored place. They were rival to get that place. So it was not decided, but there was a competition between lily and red rose. Many powerful and famous poets have composed poems and songs in praise of the rose and the lily. The white lily is a symbol of purity and innocence, whereas the red rose is a symbol of love and freshness. The poets have given their own arguments in favor of one or the other, for that I honor. One opinion is that rose can never rise above the white lily. The lily has the appearance like that of Juno, the wife of Jupiter, hence it is very proud. The idea is there were some poets who sang in praise of lily and some in praise of red rose. And one argument was given that lily is as attractive as the face of Juno, the wife of Jupiter, that is the goddess of beauty and grace. Then the question arises whether the white lily is more beautiful than the rose. The rose is very fragrant and sweet smelling. Thus, there are two groups of flowers opposed to each other. This struggle between the two took place in the garden in which Psyche lived. Psyche is a mythological name. Psyche is the name was a maiden, the youngest of all the three princes. She was loved and worshipped by men. This made Venus angry with her, and she managed the situation in such a way and asked her son Cupid, god of love, to make her fall in love with a monster. The god of love, Cupid, was trying to hit her with an arrow. Unluckily, unknowingly, he scratched that arrow with his own body, and he himself fell in love with Psyche, and they married. They suffered, they separated, and in the end, Psyche became immortal by drinking drink of gods. The god of love requested Flora, that is goddess of vegetation, to give him a flower which is as sweet smelling and fragrant as the red rose, and as pure and innocent as the white lily in her pride. The god of love could not decide about the color of such a flower. First of all, he said that it should be red rose, like red rose, which is chosen and offered by a lover to his beloved. Then he changed his mind and wanted to have a white flower like lily, which is symbol of purity and innocence. Or it would still be better if it had the mixed color of both the rose and lily. Ultimately, Flora gave the god of love the lotus, which had both the colors in it, the redness of the rose and the whiteness of the lily. Thus, Flora declares that lotus is the most beautiful of all flowers. Indirectly or symbolically, lotus is a symbol of Indian tradition and culture. This shows that Indian culture is best as compared to other cultures. The poetess as personified love as the god of love, and Flora as the goddess of vegetation and flowers. The long-standing rivalry, that is competition between the rose and the white lily, has been presented in a very impressive manner. There had been a competition that lily said she is better, rose said he is better. There was a class for competition for achieving number one position between the rose and white lily. The poem is remarkable for the beauty of its diction and imagery. That is, the words have been used very remarkable. Vocabulary used by the poetess is simple and easy to understand. Even a layman can understand it. The felicity, that is the pleasing way of using words, and aptness, appropriateness of phrases like undisputed queen, her Juno mean, the strife in Psyche's bower, the queenliest flower that blows, are notable and are highly suggestive. Suggestive means put the idea into mind clearly. They put the idea into mind clearly and greatly do the beauty of the poem. The poem is a sonnet. It follows the structure of a Petrarchan sonnet with its usual division in octave and sestet. Octave of 8 lines and sestet of 6 lines. The first part of the poem describes the conflict of superiority, that who is superior, lily or rose, between the red rose and the white lily. The rhyme scheme of the octave is modeled on the traditional rhyme scheme, that is ABBA, ABBA. In octave, there is no, you can say, difference between traditional sonnet and this sonnet. The sestet, the last 6 lines, of the poem depicts the confusion of the god of love and the solution given by the goddess of vegetation and flowers. What is the confusion? First red, no, white, or both like that. However, this part does not observe traditional rhyme scheme of the sestet of a Petrarchan sonnet. There is a slight variation in the rhyme scheme of this part. The rhyme scheme of this part is CD, CD, DC. In conclusion, it may be said that it is a very delightful, moving lyric in English from the pen of Dhruv. Means it touches the heart of the reader. Reader is highly impressed by the presentation of the poet. It is noted for its music and memorable lines. Certain lines are become memorable. The felicity and aptness, the pleasing way of using the words and appropriateness of the words and phrases are notable. The poem contains some references to the Indian mythology, but they do not create any problem in the enjoyment and understanding of the poem. There are also references to some Greek mythology. They do not create any problem. In a word, the poetess has achieved her purpose in a masterly manner. Means in a very effectively, she has been able to impress the reader, to leave an indelible impression on the mind of the reader. Thank you very much.